Okay, I've got a water heater with no pilot light on. Last night my wife was taking a shower. She was complaining that the water was kind of cold. I checked it and sure enough, it was cold. I thought it was probably just a little bit lukewarm or something. Anyway, I came out here, it was at night, and felt the recirculating line here. Recirculating line was cold, and so that's a pretty good indication that the burner's been off for a while, probably all day. And decided to troubleshoot it today. What I'm going to do is kind of explain how a water heater works. It's pretty simple, really. We'll go through the explanation of how it works, and then we'll try and troubleshoot it and see if we can figure out what's wrong here. I did try to light the pilot last night, but I couldn't get it to go. It's pretty simple. We'll go through that. I'm not a water heater repairman, but back in the early 70s, I used to install pool equipment. That was one of my first jobs. And I would install the heaters and all of the plumbing for the swimming pools, and that meant shutting off the gas to the house. So afterward, I'd have to go around the house and relight all the pilot lights. And the old water heaters back then really aren't too different from what they are today. So we'll kind of go through this step by step, and hopefully we can figure out what's going on here. So this home was made in 1998, and it's a Bradford white water heater. And what I'm seeing here is this thing was replaced and back in 2010. So it looks like the original one lasted about 12 years, and it's been 12 years now. But the main thing on a water heater, as long as it's not collecting water down here in the drip pan, if it does that, then you know that your plumbing inside of the water heater is rusted through. And chances are you're not going to be able to repair anything. You just got to get a new water heater, which is not a big deal. Something like a burner issue, that's a whole lot simpler. Probably something your average guy can fix at home. So the first thing we'll do here is just explain some of the plumbing here. This line right here, this red container right here, that's the recirculating pump. So that recirculates and sends the water into the house. Around and around she goes. And that's to save water so that you don't heat up a whole lot of cold water that's in your house in the lines when you're taking a shower at the other end of the house. This line over here, that's the gas coming in. That's coming directly from the gas meter. It's just low pressure, like less than 1 psi. Not very much pressure in there at all, but it's a pretty big line. That line comes in here into the controller or the thermostat. So that's just a little valve where you can adjust the temperature setting. This is just a little drip leg here. It'll catch water if there's any condensate in there. And the other end of the water recirculating line just returns right back into the water heater. It's got a little drain valve there, a hose bib, where you can drain the water out of the water heater tank. Looks like you can do it up here also. It's got a shutoff valve. That's what that is right there, just a 90-degree shutoff valve. Now coming out of the thermostat box, right here we have two lines coming down. The larger one is for the main burner, and that supplies the gas to the main burner. The smaller one right here, that's for the pilot, and that just goes right down over there where the flame pilot is and provides a small amount of gas for the pilot. We also have some wires going down here. These probably are going to the thermocouple. We'll find out when we open it up and see what we got in there. So the thermocouple is just a little thermocouple above the pilot light, and the reason for that is it detects the flame from the pilot. In the event that the pilot goes out, then the thermocouple will shut off the gas here going to the pilot, so that you don't have a gas buildup in there and potentially have an explosion if it manages to get a spark. And in addition to the thermostat, we have a little red button down here. That button right there provides a spark to the igniter. The igniter is looks like a spark plug on a car engine, and it sits back in here where the pilot is, and it will actually ignite the pilot when you push that little button. And then you have to continue to push it until you get a status indication right here. That little light right there, it's an LED. A lot of water heaters don't have that, but this one does, and that will give you an indication that the pilot is actually lit. So the first thing we need to do here is just remove this little inspection door right here, and it just fits in there like that. And there's a little window right here. That's where you should be able to see the pilot light. I looked at that last night. I could not see a pilot in there. Also, sometimes when you actually push the igniter, you'll see a spark in there which I don't believe we're going to see here. But that has to be done in conjunction with pushing this button right in here and turning it over to pilot. Okay, so the first step is to try to relight the pilot light. The pilot is back in through this window right here. So we take the thermostat, we put it over into the pilot position, and now you have to press this in, and at the same time, hit the igniter. And just keep doing that repeatedly. It can take 30 seconds to a minute or so before you get enough gas to go through this small little line and actually get over to the pilot, because remember, it's only about a half a PSI. So I hold that a little while, keep pushing it, and if we're lucky, we'll actually get a blue flame in there, and I'll also get a LED status on here. This will start blinking. When I came down here last night, I tried that, it didn't work, so that's why I'm out here troubleshooting it today. Okay, if the pilot light had lit, then it would just be a matter of turning the thermostat over to one of these settings, and the main burner would come on. It didn't light, so now we're going to have to get in behind this panel here and take a look at the pilot and the burner. On most water heaters, this is removable, and you can actually take that off, and then you can try and light it with just a regular old igniter. But that was the good old days. Now they sort of make it so that you have to sort of call somebody out if you're not very handy at all. But we got 4 screws on here. We'll take all 4 screws off. We'll shut the gas down. I'll show you that right now. Okay, the first step is just to shut the gas off. That's right back here in my case. There's a little valve there. Just turn it so it's 90 degrees like that. So now that shuts the gas off, so we shouldn't have any gas leaking out when we start messing around with the burner. Next step will be to disconnect the plumbing to the main burner and the pilot. So I'll get a wrench here and I'll unscrew those and loosen those up so I can remove it. And then we've got 4 screws down here on this plate, and that should be enough to be able to remove the entire assembly. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Okay, I've got my wrenches and my screwdriver for removing everything. Go ahead and take this and loosen that one. Do the same with the pilot. I'm not going to disconnect the wires unless I need to. Let's see what we're dealing with here once we get this out. Now we'll get these 4 screws down here, a couple down here. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do that and remove this plate right here. There's 4 screws, pretty straightforward. Okay, I took the 4 screws off the burner panel. Actually need a little box-in wrench. They were kind of stripped out and spinning around in there without actually removing, but I got them off. And now I've got to disconnect this wire. It's just too short in order to get this whole thing out of here. Pull that down and out of here, the gas tube. Let's see if we can take this out with the burner. Here's the whole burner assembly, and here's the pilot right there, and here's the igniter. I'm going to clean that up with a little bit of steel wool. That might help. And the insulator here, I'll wipe that all down, and then we'll see what we got. Okay, that's the igniter right there. The more I do it, the weaker the spark, but if you wait a little bit, I do it real fast. Okay, so wait a little bit, and I get a stronger spark. Anyway, I'm going to clean that all up. So if you follow this line out, the igniter right here goes all the way back. That's the white line. and it goes up to the push button right here for the igniter. So that's what throws a spark and causes the pilot to actually ignite down there. This right here, that's the thermocouple. It goes into this sort of a twisted line right here. That's the red and the white lines right here. They go back, and they go back into the main control box right here. So this has to detect a flame at all times. If that flame goes out, that is going to shut the main burner down, and that's a safety device so that you don't have natural gas going into your water heater with no flame in there, which could cause an explosion. And here's another view of the igniter from underneath. Give you a little better shot of what it's supposed to do there. I'm going to clean all of this up using some 400 grit sandpaper and old rag. Okay, so I just cleaned it up, and we'll go ahead and see if that's any brighter. I don't know. Certainly seems bright enough to actually ignite the pilot. And I'm going to put it back together and see if that did the trick. And one final thing I'm going to do here is take the pilot tubing right here. I'll blow into it just to show you. It's not completely plugged, but maybe there might be an orifice in here that might be partially blocked. If we don't get a good gas stream going over to the pilot light itself, it's not going to stay lit, or it might just sputter out. So I'm going to blow on the end of this pilot tubing right here. That's the one that goes up inside of here. And we'll see if you can hear anything coming out of there. So yeah, I can hear it okay. I'm actually blowing pretty hard. Hard to say if that's enough flow or not, but we'll check and see if there's an orifice in there or if anything's blocked. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Okay, I went ahead and unscrewed the pilot tubing and had to get a little wrench. It's pretty tight. Quite a few threads on there, but you can see there's no orifice in there or anything. It's just the open tubing going all the way up. And if we follow that back, we come back over to here to where I was blowing in the other end. That's sort of an orifice there. Anyway, I'll blow on it again and see if it's any different. Seems like it's wide open to me. Okay, there's no restrictions there. And one last thing I'll do is I'll clean up this area underneath the burner here. You can see there's just a lot of soot and crud and junk in there. I'm going to sweep that out or wipe that out and before I put everything back together. Okay, that looks a little better. I'll wipe the burner down a little bit too with a rag. It's interesting, you can see right here in the very bottom, right there in the center of that tube, that's where the gas comes up. And because the gas is lighter than air, it just flows up into that circular hole in the bottom there and then out to each burner port. So there's no direct connection there. And it mixes with air on the way up. Okay, so I put everything back together and I tried to light the pilot and I could not see any visible flame. And I decided to take the burner out again and go ahead and connect the gas pipe and the pilot tubing back up to the controller there. And I'm going to try it now and see if I can actually get the pilot lit. I noticed when I took it out, the thermocouple right here was pretty warm to the touch. That means that pilot must have been lit, and I just didn't see it. Maybe the flame wasn't strong enough, or who knows. But this actual window here is actually kind of small, and I'm not sure if it's even lined up properly to see the flame. So I'm going to go ahead and try that right now, and we'll see what happens. Okay, I'll go ahead and push this on. Well, it lit immediately. It's pretty kind of a dim blue. So that pilot light is lit. There's no doubt about that. There's no issue there. Now, the question is whether the thermocouple is actually producing the current that I need in order to get the burner to actually come on. But yeah, it's lit. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and light it. I'm going to depress the button here. And good enough, we have the pilot lit. And what I just discovered is that even though it was on for 20 minutes, As soon as I let go of this, and I'm gonna leave that on for a few minutes, it's sort of stuck, pushed in like that. As soon as I let go of that, the pilot goes out. That means the signal from the thermocouple is not going back to the valve in order to allow the pilot gas flow to continue on. So if that doesn't happen, if that's not satisfied, the burner will never come on. So that seems to be the issue. It's probably this thermocouple right here, which I can probably order, replace, and get a new one. Or it could be the wiring. I'm going to check out the wiring and make sure everything looks good on that end of it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and release this, and you'll see that the burner goes out right now, the pilot. All right, and you can see that it's completely off. Push it in again, lit. As soon as I let go of the valve, it's kind of stuck in there. Off it goes. Okay, step by step, we're getting there. And one last view of the actual pilot. Here's where the gas actually comes out. And you can see where it directs its flame onto the thermocouple. Okay, I looked into this thermocouple. It's actually a thermopile, and discovered that this actually generates a little bit of DC current, and it's a very, very small amount, but the flame from the pilot actually continuously generates a small DC current that goes through these wires up into here and to the controller, and that's what actually provides electricity to run the control board. So if that's not working properly, of course the system's not going to work. So what we need to do is actually test and make sure that the voltage that is generating is within the range of 650 to 850 millivolts. So we just use a simple multimeter to go ahead and test the voltage. We set it 2000 millivolts. That should be a good range to test to make sure we get the 650 to 850. And the next thing is we follow the leads going back into the control panel. We remove these two leads. And now we're going to go ahead and put the red wire from the multimeter on the red wire and the black wire from the multimeter into the white wire. And then we're going to go ahead and light the pilot and see if we get the required voltage. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and light the pilot. This valve kind of sticks, so I can let go of it and it'll probably, yeah, keep the pilot going. Now, okay, we can see it going up there. 300. And hopefully we'll get to 650. Takes a couple of minutes. Slowly going up. Okay, we're over the 650 millivolt threshold. So the thermopile is definitely working. It's generating enough voltage to run the control board. I'm going to let it go and see just how high it goes here. So now we've eliminated a lot of things that it's not. It's not the igniter. It's not the pilot itself. It's lighting fine. The gas to the pilot is unobstructed. We got plenty of gas there. The thermopile is working. We're getting the required voltage. So now everything is leading back up to the control box up here. So I believe the issue is probably the control board itself. It's not likely the sensor that goes into the firebox itself. Those don't usually fail. There's a couple of valves behind here that actually admit the gas into the burner. I don't think it's that. It's almost always these control boards. It's really hot here in Vegas. This garage gets probably up to about 120 degrees, even hotter sometimes in the summer. So that is most likely the problem. Now we need to remove this this box. Okay, to get to the control board, we need to remove this cover over here. Disconnect the wire going to the igniter. Remove the two wires going to the thermocouple. And there appears to be a screw underneath here. It's a torque screw, so I need to find a proper tool for that. And I'm gonna unscrew that, and then I think we can lift this thing off. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. These little tool bit kits from Harbor Freight are really handy. They have all the torque bits and other things you'll need. Turns out it's this size right here. And here's the screw. And now we just pry it off here from the bottom. Use a screwdriver on the top here a little bit. There it comes. All right. Now we just got the wire to contend with. Take a look at that. Okay, so this is the control board right here. The wire just fits behind that little piece of plastic right there. And to remove the control board, there's another torque screw right here holding the board on. 3 tabs, 1, 2, 3. And I'm gonna go ahead and remove that screw, pull the tabs out, and hopefully it'll just lift right out. Also, there's a little clip here holding the wire on. Okay, that came out pretty easily. And now it's just a matter of removing the connector. And there it is. Okay, so here's the control board, close-up of it. And there's the actual part number of it. I can go ahead onto eBay or Amazon and see if I can locate one of these. Here's a little look at the control valves behind the panel there. So on the left over here, that's the pilot valve. That's the main burner valve. And behind that is a temperature sensor. And I believe all that's probably okay, hopefully, and replacing the control board should do it. Let's hope. Instead of replacing the control board, I decided to just go ahead and replace the whole control valve. 65 bucks shipped on eBay. It's used, of course, but this should do the job. I'm gonna go ahead and bench test it, and we'll see what we got. Okay, I've got it all connected up to the gas. I'm gonna go ahead and bench test this, and that's a whole lot better than installing it and finding out it doesn't work. So let's see. If it works here, then I know it's gonna work inside of the water heater, and we'll go ahead and test it. Okay, I'll go ahead and push in the pilot valve, and all right, it lit right away. And we'll wait and see how long it takes to get a status light. Hopefully we'll get that. And then when I release it, hopefully the pilot stays on. Okay, there's a status indicator. 1, 2, 3. That's one we want. I'm going to continue holding it for a while here. Okay, now the moment of truth. I'm going to release the pilot and see if release the valve, see if the pilot stays on. Ah! All right, well that's a good sign. I'll give that a minute or two, and then we're going to go ahead and actually turn on the burner, make sure everything works before I install it. Okay, let's see if the burner actually works now. I'm going to go ahead and put it to hot. Yeah, definitely works. Okay, that's good enough. I'm going to turn it off. All right, I'm going to go ahead and install that in the water heater. Looks like it was a successful repair, so we're all set.